Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Crimson Crossover podcast presented by the Field of 68. I'm your host, Christian Sykes, joined as always by Charles Branch, Michael Harper, and Joey Blackwell. We got a full roster today, unlike Alabama basketball. We will talk about that. Uh, we will talk about that and more because there's definitely nothing else going on in the world of Alabama basketball, just some bracket talk and excited for March Madness or March Sadness, as some may call it. But guys, it is Tuesday night. We had the first round or the first four tip off tonight. How are you guys feeling? How are you feeling about your bracket? How do you feel about Alabama straw? Maybe not the Alabama straw. We'll talk about that in a minute. But how do you feel about your bracket so far?
Well,
Kind of chalky, you know,
since saying I haven't filled mine out yet, I can't say.
kind
That's
of
for
chalky. I
tomorrow.
mean, it's really hard to not go with one or two seeds in this one. I mean, like the one seeds have just been so dominant, and then potentially, I can go over mine later, but potentially Houston getting to play in Houston, you know,
Yeah, I agree. I thought this was going to be a tournament with a lot of upsets. I'm not seeing it right now. Been picking a lot more higher seeds, which I've had the song "Higher" by Creed stuck in my head since Monday morning, and I can now blame that on picking the higher seeds than maybe the news that came out Monday morning. So that actually makes me feel better of where that actually came from than that it's not Alabama basketball related. So appreciate you taking that off, and hopefully I won't be thinking about higher anymore.
Yeah, to just fly high Alabama's chances to get past the Sweet 16 now at this point. So um, I think that we could stop beating around the proverbial bush or plant, if you will, um, in regards to some of the news that might be coming out. Unfortunately, it does look like Alabama guard Aden Holloway, who averages about what like 17 points a game. It's probably not going to be with the team at least the first round, the first weekend. My personal opinion, I would be surprised if he played any this year. I would be personally, I'd be extremely disappointed in Nate Oates and the coaching staff if you allow someone because the charges that are against him are two felony charges: the failure to affix like a tax document, and then he had 2.1 pounds of as the children say, marijuana in his house, dispersed throughout his house. So it wasn't 2.1 pounds just sitting somewhere. It was 2.1 pounds throughout his house. But my personal opinion is if you got a guy with a felony charge on, playing basketball, then you got to really reevaluate what your standards are for the program. There's been a lot of talk about Nate Oates allowing guys such as Brandon Miller or for some reason Darius Miles or Jaquan Walton even got brought up to in some of the conversations. Um, First of all, Brandon Miller never charged, never was a suspect on anything. Actually, he's been cooperating with the DA and the prosecutors for the Darius Miles case in regards to the murder of Jamia Harris. Darius Miles got kicked off the team the same morning that the charges were brought to him. Um, there was never a point in time when he was playing, nor even before that was there a point in time when he was playing for Alabama. He was expected to redshirt for the rest of the season, so he wasn't going to be playing for the team regardless. Jaquan Walton, his charges got brought up, and the same day he got his offer pulled from the University of Alabama. Um, so the narrative that Nate Oates has this track record or past of playing these, I guess, sorts of characters on his teams is just completely not factual. And I was very happy with the response that the university came out with, saying that they were going to dismiss him from campus. If he gets reinstated next week, I still would like him to not play for Alabama until his legal troubles get resolved because I personally don't want a guy that has a felony charges playing on the team. That's not a good representation of the university regardless of what the charges are, regardless if I think legal or weed people should be getting arrested for weed in the big 2026. But That's kind of where I stand. Do you guys have thoughts on that beyond what I said?
The only thought is just this is Alabama basketball, right? You know, have we talk about having a successful season um, prior to the bracket released on the space on Sunday, turn around Monday morning, and then you're hit with this news. And I know we were kind of joking leading into the show, but these are serious charges, regardless of how you feel about what he's charged, that they are felonies. I agree. I would not expect him and would hope that we don't see him probably for the rest of this year until these things get resolved. Uh, to be completely honest, too, in this NIL era that we've talked about a lot, you know, I feel like we're holding these guys not only to a higher standard of how they play because of the rumored money that they get, but I feel like they should be held to a higher standard off the court as well. Not that they can't be college kids and enjoy their time and stuff like that, but it makes me wonder, like when we're signing players with these NIL agreements and things like this happen, what's the recourse for Alabama? That's probably a much different conversation than what we want to really get into as far as March Madness, the NCAA tournament, and Alabama basketball. But just to be completely honest with everybody, like I went to the NIL side of this thing as well, and how we handle those matters because NIL is still all very new. If something like this had happened in the professional leagues, I won't say that he would have immediately been cut or released or anything like that, but I'm sure they have certain recourses in their contracts with that. So, all that aside, it's very unfortunate for this Alabama basketball team, even though, as Nato said, like has probably never been an Alabama basketball team built to handle situations like this, just because of all the injuries that this team has had to deal with and all the other distractions that this is just another one, and I expect them to be able to play through it. But some very unfortunate circumstances with basically no basketball going on from the bracket to Thursday, and this is definitely going to be a story that takes a lot of those headlines for those 3 days.
Really, it's just unfortunate because we would kind of all like to be just breaking down the games right now. And when just as fans, as Alabama basketball fans, Alabama athletic fans, and just sports fans in general, when we turn on the podcasts that we like to listen to, or turn on the sports radio shows, or turn on whatever that you would like to be hearing when you talk about Alabama Hofstra and then potential second round matchups if Alabama gets past Hofstra, you'd like to hear the actual basketball breakdown. You'd like to hear that Hofstra is top 100 in KenPom defensively, and you'd like to hear the different matchups that could present each other. The story of the former NBA player Speedy Claxton being the head coach of Hofstra, and everything that could present there. And then the matchup of contrasting styles potentially in the second round with Alabama, Texas Tech. You would love to be hearing that right now, but instead you're having to hear about, off the court issues. And so it's disappointing to me more than anything. We could talk for days about the whole deal of possession and all that. We can talk for that. That's not what we're here for. That's not our jobs to do. But it's disappointing that we have to do this and not be able to talk about what could be a fun and what should still be a fun weekend of basketball.
Yeah, and I do not envy Nate's position right now, just because he's kind of in a, for lack of a better expression, he's kind of in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Because on one hand, obviously, if you don't suspend Holloway, you're going to have a lot of people that are rather upset by that decision, right? And let's hypothetically say he plays. You're going to have a lot of people obviously upset with that decision, not just on a local stage, but from a national stage, because we've seen it before. I mean, and obviously you can't really compare crimes, but everybody knows what I'm talking about in the past couple of years. But then on the other side, if you don't let him play, if you do suspend him, you're going to have a lot of people that are supportive of that. But then you're going to have some key players, like as Charles mentioned, key NIL donors, alumni, those kind of people that have invested not just time but also resources into this program, and seeing that potentially be taken from them. The law is the law, whether you agree with the law or not. That is what it currently is right now, and you should be expected to follow it as such. I'm in the same boat as you, Christian. If I have my way, I hopefully he won't play the rest of the season because he's got to deal with the consequences of those actions. But I do hope there's a path to redemption. We'll wait and see. But like I said at the very beginning of this, I do not envy the position that Nate Oates is in right now.
Look, and I appreciate that the university took it out of his hands, right? Like the university said, "Hey, this is what we're gonna do," and there's not even a conversation for Nate of what's his decision, you know. Um, I I would say this: the position of playing basketball for the University of Alabama should mean something to someone. Playing for the name on your front of your jersey, like we've said multiple times through over the course of the year, should mean something to someone. For someone as such as Aden Holloway, and I think Aiden's a great kid. He's got and I'm not faulting him from smoking weed or whatever. I don't give a crap. Like, who cares in 2026 if someone is smoking weed? But like you said, Joey, the law is the law. And for you as a teammate to put yourself in a position to prevent yourself and prevent your team from having the best opportunity to go win a national championship, which is something that you've worked for your entire career, right? Is a selfish play on Aden Holloway's part. And I think he is a great kid and I think he can learn from these mistakes. But I don't give him grace in this moment of, oh, he got pulled over and oh, he had like a gram of weed on him because, whatever, he had some weed. Like, this was 2 pounds of weed that you had at your house that police, by the way, police raided your house. This isn't just a traffic stop that had weed on you, right? Like, this is they had to have enough probable cause to be able to come and get a drug task force to come raid your house, which means that there's probably been, this is just speculation, this is alleged. There's probably been other instances in the past that have led up to this point to where they have enough to get a search warrant to come to your house and find all of the weed, right? So, in my opinion, if you as Nate Oates and if you as Alabama basketball let this man play the rest of any time the rest of this season, you are telling him that it is okay to break the law. You're telling him that it is okay to put the team in a terrible position when you are trying to win a national championship. And me personally, as a fan, I love Aiden, but there has to be consequences and there has to be recourse to what he put in this team and he put. And I know fans are fans, but like, you put the university in this situation, there has to be a consequence for that, in my opinion. It's just,
No, I agree.
it really frustrates me because I like it. It's so easy. It's so easy for these guys to just not do something, right? It's so easy for Darius Miles to not go and try to ask someone for their gun and then someone gets killed. It's so easy for Aden Holloway to not go and have 2 pounds of weed in your house. Like, I'm a grown adult. I make my own money. Aden Holloway has significantly more money than I do. Guess what? I'm not going to go keep 2 pounds of weed in my house if it was illegal. Like,
Yeah.
like you're not above the law because you make so much money. You're not. So, um, moving forward, Alabama plays Hofstra on Friday at, I think it's 3:15.
Smooth transition there, Christian.
3:15 Eastern on Friday. They get the winner of, if they beat Hofstra, which by the way, Hofstra is a very, very good team. They beat Hofstra, they get the winner of the Texas Tech Akron game. Um, Alabama's going to be without Aden Holloway. Um, Thoughts on the starting lineup? Thoughts on this game now that you don't have your second best scorer on the team?
I'll go
I,
first. Just because I had an opportunity to connect with somebody at Hofstra, which yeah, if you haven't gotten on cross court, highly recommend you listening to Eric
So
Leaf when we did our cross court episode. He did a great job from the Hofstra Chronicle. Starting lineup: LeBaron, Latrell, Reitzel, Amari Allen, Aiden Sherrill. Do you go London Jemison? Do you go Houston Millette? I think I'd probably lean London Jemison just because Millette has done a pretty good job of coming off the bench. And we know that both he and Sherrill typically like to play in short stretches. So having two guys start that you would then have to get out for a short stretch, I think it'd be better to have London Jemison start. Look, this Hofstra's team is a good basketball team. And Christian, I think you said it on the space Sunday. Cruz Davis is a guy that if he goes into the portal
he's
after
a
this
Tide.
year,
He has to be a
yeah,
Tide. He
yeah.
has to be a Tide.
Well, people are going to want him. He averages about 20 points a game, and his counterpart is Preston Edmeade, who's a freshman who just scored 26 points in the CAA championship game against Monmouth, and he's also the guy who hit the buzzer beater basically against Towson in the semifinal game. He's really been coming along for them. And they've got another guard, German Plotnikov, who's also, pretty decent player as well. So that they've got three good guards too. They've also got Silas Sunday, who's 7 feet 280. Doesn't do a whole lot of scoring, but does grab about 6, 7 rebounds a game. And this is, I think, Michael was kind of talking about it. It is a contrast of styles. Ken Palm, Hofstra is in above 300 as it relates to tempo. And so the question I asked Eric was, how do you feel like Hofstra could deal with Alabama's tempo if Alabama gets the game going? And in their first round game or their first game in the Colonial Athletic Conference tournament, Hofstra played William and Mary, a team that's number 7 in Kim Palm tempo, and won 91-62. Now, William and Mary doesn't have the same athletes and talent that Alabama does, but they've recently played at this tempo and played pretty well. Another interesting stat that he shared with me was Hofstra is undefeated this year when they get 5 or more rebounds than their opponent. And we know how we struggle rebounding the basketball. So it's going to be a very interesting game because of everything that we're dealing with. NATO said that he expects a spirited effort. It's going to take a spirited effort. You saw the clips with Speedy Claxton after they won and what it meant to him. Talking to Eric, watching the clips of their play-by-play, the student play-by-play radio, like they're very much excited to be back in the NCAA tournament for the first time in 25 years. And I think this is a team in Hofstra that really is a team. They all play for each other. They all mean something to each other. Like Alabama's going to have to come ready to play and more ready to play than they did against Robert Morris last year.
And
Is
Ole
this
Miss.
and Ole Miss that we saw in the SEC tournament? Um, I do think this is a game that we could win and could win comfortably, but if you let Hofstra hang around, like this will be a dogfight till the very end.
Yeah, I think Cruz Davis, if you're able to limit him, I think that's pretty much going to be Bama's key to winning this game. If you can limit him, you limit almost their entire offense. But that being said, just to glaze Cruz Davis a little bit more. The guy, he averages, I think it was around 37 minutes a game, so he pretty much almost plays the entirety of every game they have. He shoots over 40% from beyond the arc, so he's just as capable a three-point shooter as he is at driving. The thing that impressed me in watching some of his highlights was he never really appears lost on the court. Like he is great positioning, but he also has great awareness of where everybody else is on the court. He's able to drive very well. But then the most frustrating thing about him, like watching him as an opponent, is that he's kind of like LeBaron Philon in a way that he's able to find a way to the basket. Even when he's locked down by defenders, he seemingly is really, really good at finding a way. So especially he's really good at taking advantage of position mismatches and potentially players that are out of position on defense. Which, as an Alabama, as a people that have watched Alabama basketball this year, that's something that our defense has struggled with quite often is players being out of position. So if Davis is able to take advantage of that, and Hofstra is able to win, I think that will be a key point to that. From the inverse of that, if Alabama is able to limit him, I think that's where it begins and ends for Alabama winning this basketball game.
I as the resident sunshine pumper, I guess I actually fully expect to. I kind of fully expect to cover the. I mean, I understand the dynamics, with their tempo compare, that they like to slow it down, they try to control the tempo, but that works on our side too, right? Um, they played, I believe they played two teams this entire season that have played at the pace. I could be wrong about this, but I believe, and I should have probably done more research, and I do apologize for that. But I believe they've only played two teams at a pace that have a top 100 KenPom tempo this year, and so our tempo is something that they have not seen. I mean, and like if you look at other teams' pace and other teams that play fast, it does not compare to ours, right? And so it's an entirely different dynamic when you're having to constantly be you're having to constantly be alert, constantly having to be focused on the like even right after you make a basket. I mean, how many times have you seen us? We give up a quick bucket, but then we turn around, grab it right out of the net, pitch it ahead, and then hit a quick three and kind of demoralize any kind of run that the other team was about to have. So, I don't think Hofstra has seen anything like the tempo that we have, and I just I agree. I agree with you guys. I think there are some challenges that they can present, but there's also a reason that we're a top 16 seed in the country, and I think I understand that the Aden Holloway situation makes it tough, and going into if knowing if we didn't have Aden Holloway, we'd probably be more of a 5 or a 6 seed. But again, we're a top 20 team in the country for a reason. Hofstra's not. Um, I know that sounds simple, but I don't think I think because of some of the bad news that we've gotten, I think we as Alabama fans have had a tendency to take bad news and kind of have a sky is falling mentality, and I just don't think that's the case. I kind of think, and we've all talked about it before, that our ceiling is probably Sweet 16 anyway. I think we're going to be a Sweet 16 with Aden Holloway, and I think we're going to be a Sweet 16 team without Aden Holloway. Um, so that's just kind of my thought.
Uh, I'm not going to argue with you. I would just say I'm going to go back to what William Mary is as far as their metrics. Like they're outside the top 100 as far as offense and defense, but their tempo is seventh in the country from KenPom. They probably attack a lot differently than how we attack. But I do know in the first game between Hofstra and William Mary won at home 89-82. They shot 44 3-point attempts and I think made 18 of them. And that was in the midst of Hofstra in a 5-game losing streak to basically start conference play. When they met again in the conference tournament, Hofstra won 91-62, and they held William and Mary to 22 3-point attempts. Now, I'm not the resident expert on the Colonial Athletic Association. So, William and Mary's season could have completely fallen apart. They could have lost some players. They could not. Maybe they didn't play at the tempo that they really wanted to in the conference tournament game and couldn't get the pace going up. And at the end of the day, Alabama is significantly better than what William Mary is. But I look at that and I look at knowing, again, just talking to some Hofstra people and the excitement that they have about being back in the NCAA tournament. And I know Pitt and Syracuse are ACC teams that were at the bottom of the league, not good. But Hofstra went into Pitt and they went up to Syracuse and they won those games. And they're going to find wherever they can to have confidence, and having two ACC road wins for for programs and teams that are mid majors, like you take that and you run with that. So again, I'm not predicting doom and gloom, but it would not shock me if this game is a lot more challenging than maybe what we expect, or what we hope for it to be, knowing what we did to Charleston 2 years ago when we made
Yeah.
our Final Four run.
Well, I mean, it would not surprise me at all if it's tight for a while, right? It wouldn't surprise me at all if it's one of the, especially considering, with some of the slow starts that we've had this year. It wouldn't surprise me at all if it's close for a while. But again, I go back to yes, the tempo that William and Mary played with. However, you got to combine, not just look at their tempo, but you also have to combine the fact that we play with the top tempo in the country, or number two. It's top with a top 5 tempo in the country, and then also the number 1 scoring offense in the country. So you're combining both of those. You're not just taking a top tempo with a 100 level offense, if that makes sense.
I completely agree with that. Which, since I was searching tempo, side note, thought, Alabama fans might find this interesting as it relates to the Nate Oates coaching tree. In KenPom tempo, Alabama finished 4th. Arkansas State with Ryan Pannone finished 10th. South Florida with Brian Hodgson finished 15th. And where was Georgia Southern finished? It was either 41 or 40, and Kennesaw State finished 19th. So if you're a program that wants to play fast, you want to be hiring assistants from Alabama.
I'll say this for Alabama, Amari Allen's going to have to step up. He's been highly inefficient offensively the last 4 or 5 games. With Aden Holloway out of the game, which is what Nate Oates said that they're expecting, that Aiden's not going to play this weekend, or at least in the first game. I also assume that he's not going to play Sunday because there's no chance that things get resolved between Friday and Sunday. Nate said that Amari is going to be playing less of the 4. So London Jimison's going to have to step up. Taylor Bobone's going to have to step up. But really, Amari Allen and I think Latrell Wrightsell are the two key guys that you're going to need to see step up. Latrell stepped up midway through SEC plays, kind of slumped a little bit. It's really important that he picks it back up. And then Amari, I mean, he's got to figure out if he's the NBA lottery or NBA guy that everyone thinks that he's going to be, then this is his time to shine. Additionally, I think Jalil Bethia is a guy that you need to be looking at that's probably going to get additional minutes. And I guarantee you, if he gets 10 minutes, he's going to put up 15 shots. So just be prepared for that. But he's probably going to make 3 of them, but he'll put up 15.
Yeah. Hey, if he makes, honestly, if you could get 7 points from Bethia, it's good. If you get the effort from him that you did against Auburn, it's a positive. And I still think he's a very talented player that will eventually figure things out. It just, we can get that. That's for another time. But one thing to look for with Hofstra is they are a ball screen, their ball screen coverage. They are a drop coverage team. They do like to force long twos. So like they're kind of like, again, their head coach Speedy Claxton is an NBA guy. So he kind of brings an NBA mindset to it, much like Alabama does, and much like Nate Oates wants. And so Speedy Claxton wants to force inefficient shots. So you're going to see drop coverage, which to me, I know we had struggled in the past before with Duke playing drop, um, we struggled in another game earlier with Gonzaga. We struggled. Um, they're neither, they're not going to. Hofstra does not have quite the level of shot blocking that those two teams have when Duke had Malawatch last year, what Gonzaga had this year. So you're going to see drop coverage. I actually think you're going to see a pretty decent game. I say pretty decent. I think you're going to see a big game from LeBaron Fallon. One thing that I think you could see is some lob sets, some pick and roll action from Taylor Ball Bowen. This week is him being the role guy. You've got we don't have a lot of above the rim threats on this team, but he's one of them. So you're going to have that to watch out for. And then another thing would drop with Hofstra playing primarily drop coverage. You're going to have the pop aspect from Aden Sherrill. So Aden Sherrill is going to have the opportunity to knock down some threes and should get some open looks from three also.
Yeah. I'm a little nervous, I'm not gonna lie about the game, but I'm excited. I mean, what, 4 straight years of top 4 seeds? Can't really complain about that. Um, as far as the next round matchup, it's hard to really talk about. Texas Tech comes in pretty banged up. Christian Anderson, I think their second best player, didn't play in the Big 12 tournament. Their best player, JT Toppin's been out for a few weeks with like what was it, like a torn ACL, I think is what he had.
Yeah.
And then Akron, very, very good team, very dangerous team. Actually, a team that I picked in my bracket to beat Texas Tech. Um, Very dangerous team. They won their conference tournament. Um, and I mean, if Alabama can get out of the first weekend, I'll deem it a successful season. I doubt, just my honest opinion, I assume Michigan is going to get through the first weekend, is going to meet the people out of our pod in the Sweet 16. I don't think Alabama beats Michigan. I don't think Alabama beats Michigan with Aden Holloway either. So getting to the Sweet 16 would be successful. It would be the, what, fifth straight year Alabama would have gotten to the Sweet 16, or is it fourth straight year?
Fourth.
Fourth straight. 5 out of the last 6 seasons, Alabama would have gotten to the Sweet 16. So, deemed that a successful season with all the stuff that's been going on.
And I think anytime in college basketball with the with the tournament being a one and done, it lose or go home or win or go home. It's so volatile. Anytime you make it the second weekend, I think it's a success.
Yeah.
So for the Eeyore fans sometimes that we have that are just like national championship or Final Four or bust, it's hard to it's hard to make that a bank that and say it's only a successful season if we make the Final Four, just because you just never know when you're going to have a night where you just don't shoot the basketball well. And that's not a live or die by the three either. That's that's any team. That's just the sport. That's the nature of the sport. You could have a night where you don't shoot the ball well from anywhere on the floor, and the other team shoots the ball well, and you go home. It's part of it. We saw that in 2023 against San Diego State. Not to bring up bad memories, because I was in the arena. I know you were in the arena too, Christian, and
I was my soul left the arena that day.
yeah, it was not a fun night there.
Oh, it's awful.
But it's just the nature of the sport sometimes. So anytime, especially when you're at a school like Alabama, that, let's be honest, everybody knows that football rules the rules the campus, and so when you're at a football school, anytime you're making it just to the second weekend is a success. It just, in my opinion.
I'll say even more recently, the game Friday against Ole Miss, which I look, give credit to Ole Miss and the run they had in the SEC tournament, but the amount of layups or shots at the rim that we missed in that game that we typically make, and we missed a lot of open three looks as well. That's just basketball. That happens. And I give Ole Miss a lot of credit, as I just said, for the run, but they play really good defense too.
And some of the contested shots Ole Miss made as well. I
Right.
mean, how many contested mid range jumpers did they make? So
Yeah. And last second buzzer beater shots with shot clock falling out of bounds, 3-pointer.
yeah, right.
Like it took a lot. That's what I was trying to say on the space when we were talking about it on Sunday. I was like, it took a lot for Alabama to lose. It took Alabama to play a terrible game and Ole Miss to play an exceptional game and hit everything
Right.
for Alabama to lose. Like if you're an Alabama fan, like take the losing out of it. Like that's what it took for your team to lose by 1 point. Like that should tell you the floor of this team that
And
is exceptionally high.
And you could probably say the same thing about the game against Georgia. I mean, it took Georgia hitting some tough shots in the second half and us just missing some wide open threes and really very early on could have taken control of that game and had some turnovers that kept Georgia in it and then gave them a lot of momentum as well. So, if this Alabama team plays the way that we expect them to play, and it doesn't have to be an A+ game or anything like that, but just you know, average B game, they should be able to definitely win comfortably on Friday. And then might have to pick it up a little bit against Texas Tech or Akron. Um,
You know, I mean, Akron's a team that they could very well knock off Texas Tech. I don't think we could definitely need to pencil in that if we win this game against Hofstra, that it's Texas Tech.
No, I agree. I will say Alabama is, besides what the Elite Eight last year, Alabama is undefeated in second games of a weekend, and it took a Cooper flag to Incon Knipple to beat Alabama. Um, and so short rest, I always favor Alabama regardless of who the opponent is. Um, the first game of a weekend is always the most nerve-wracking game for me, honestly. Um, but I'm excited. Hopefully, we're having a podcast next week talking about facing our Sweet 16 opponents, and we can um, bury the news that's happened, you know, um, and hopefully we can grow past some of the highs and lows of this Alabama basketball season so far. So,
especially the highs.
especially the highs, no matter what strand that you prefer. Um, but as far as our schedule is concerned, we might do a space Sunday. It just depends on tip time. Um, Regardless of result, I would say I would say if Alabama loses on Friday, we still might do a space Sunday. That might give us a couple of days to kind of digest before I really want to do a end of season recap. But if we win on Sunday or win Friday and win Sunday, then I would expect this space on Sunday, just recapping the weekend. Um, and then we will definitely have a podcast next week, regardless of the result of the weekend. And then as far as other things going on, Weekly Joe will have their podcast out this week. I'm not sure about Blue Collar podcasts just because I know Emily is traveling, and I assume Michael's also going to be traveling to Tampa. So I don't know what their schedule looks like, but we will keep chugging along. Fellas, is there anything I missed? Anything? Oh, and cross court. Um, Charles, you released your Hofstra cross court
Yes.
And you have Texas Tech potentially on deck.
Yes. Working on Akron.
Yeah. So we already have Hofstra out. If we advance to the next round, I assume Charles, you're going to release the whichever podcast of the
Yeah,
next opponent.
as soon as possible.
Yeah. So be on the lookout for that. Excited for cross court. Hopefully we have what, 5 more of those?
Yep.
5 more cross courts get to a national championship.
So close.
So close. But other than that, this has been the Crimson Crossover Podcast, and we'll talk again soon. Roll Tide.
Roll
Roll
Tide.
Tide.
Roll Tide.